This chapter, I want to tell you about some philosophers. Now, these philosophers are basically just a couple old, dead white dudes who were Enlightenment thinkers, and our founding fathers borrowed a lot of their ideas and incorporated them into not only the Declaration of Independence, but also the Constitution. Okay, and those two Enlightenment thinkers, their names are John Locke, who's this Ichabod Crane looking guy right here on the top, and Thomas Hobbes. Who does he look like? He looks like that actor that played Lord Cornwallis in The Patriot. Anyway, these guys lived in the mid-1600s, and I'm going to tell you about each of them. We'll start with Thomas Hobbes since I have his name written here. Okay, Thomas Hobbes is a British philosopher. And his most famous work that he wrote was called The Leviathan. I should probably italicize that. The Leviathan. Does anybody know what a Leviathan is or ever heard that term before? It's a monster. Like a kraken would be a Leviathan, a monster. Now, Thomas Hobbes is writing about government. Right off the top, before I even tell you about Thomas Hobbes, what do you think he believes about government?
It's a monster? It's something that doesn't need to be...
That it is a monster, or that it should be a monster?
It should.
It should be a monster. He's a philosopher. He's not a government guy.
He's more of like your big government type of philosopher.
He's a thinker. Yeah, he's just a thinker. Okay? Now, both of these gentlemen have ideas on a social contract. Okay? A social contract. Now, a social contract can have varying definitions based upon who's giving it. But what a social contract is the relationship between people and the government. That is the social contract. Thomas Hobbes argued that government rests on a social contract in which ordinary people must give up their freedom. He believes that people should surrender their freedom. Why? Remember, this is a contract. So both sides have obligations. People should surrender their freedom. Why?
To promote equality.
Good guess. So that the government will protect them. Okay, keep in mind, this is 1651. How many democracies are on Earth in 1651?
Maybe one.
Zero.
Zero? Okay.
There are none. What is the most common form of government in 1651? Well, he's a British guy in 1651.
Empire.
Yeah, kings and queens, monarchies, absolute rulers, dictatorships. That is the most common form. And so most of the people on earth are doing this. I'm going to submit myself to you, king, and in return, if somebody messes with me, you're going to come thump them in the head. All right? Which is a form of feudalism. Feudalism. Like, okay, I will give you honor, I'll give you my tax money, and in return, you're going to provide me with military protection, military service. That's how it's going to work. All right? So people should give up their freedom. Now, the reason why he believes this is because the way he views people. He does not have a very high opinion of human beings. He believes that people are by nature, I guess I do like this, by nature, not capable of self-government. Because when left alone in nature, they will naturally destroy each other. What do you guys think about that? Do you think if humans left by their own devices, without any type of society, like let's just say that us three people are on an airplane, and we crash, and we're the only three people left, and it's a deserted island. What do you guys do you think? What do you think will happen? Do you think we'll naturally destroy each other? Like you think, like if you guys will pick me to be the leader, and then things start going bad, might you try to kill me so that you can make your own decisions,
Yeah.
so that somebody else can have it? Maybe.
I mean, honestly, like in my view, I kind of agree with that.
Okay.
I mean, when you look at a book like Lord of the Flies,
Lord of the Flies is an excellent example.
and
In fact,
they literally kill each other.
William Golding stole a lot of Thomas Hobbes' ideas.
And it makes sense because
Mhm.
Lord of the Flies is kind of centered around this self-government kind of.
That's
destroying
right.
Each other.
That's right. Now, Thomas Hobbes has a statement in which he sums up people's lives. He believes human life is nasty, brutish, and because of those two things, short.
Got
So-
any notes?
Talking about
Just a
philosophy.
minute. I'm gonna ask you a faculty question in a minute.
What you got? Go ahead. Come on.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody. Mr. White's going to ask us a question. I got a recording going.
Are you recording?
Yeah, go ahead. Go.
COVID question. All right, for faculty. If a student has COVID,
Mhm.
is that an automatic 14-day quarantine for the faculty member whose class they attended?
Depends upon their level of exposure to that student. So like currently, I'm not within a certain amount of distance between them. We all have our masks
It's
on.
going to be case by case for our faculty.
It will. It will be case by case. Yeah.
So it's advantageous for me to stay 6 foot away from the students regardless.
At all times.
At all times.
That's what we're supposed to do, even in the hallway, 6 feet away at all times, regardless of class change or any social distancing, no matter what, bathrooms and everything.
But it's not a mandatory. John Doe has COVID. Every one of his teachers are gone for 14 days. That's not a mandatory.
That is not the way I understand it.
Because this said, this was what happened on the bus here, so that was very unique.
It is. And hopefully it's the last of it, but it probably won't be.
I hope so.
Yeah, but I'm hopeful.
Good deal. Okay, man.
All right. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. White.
Clear as mud.
All right. Speaking of human life, Thomas Hobbes believes that human life is nasty, brutish, and as a result of those two things, short. So when human beings are not, have a strict ruler over top of them, putting their thumb on top of them and stopping them from acting this way, then they'll just destroy each other. And so therefore, the social contract that he believes in is people submit themselves, they give up their freedom to be nasty and brutish and short, to have a strict ruler over top of them, and to make them act right. Does this make sense? Okay, so he believes people require more control, but also less freedom to try to improve human lives. Otherwise, it would just be a never-ending war of everybody versus everybody. That is Thomas Hobbes' philosophy. Can you see how he's kind of correct? Is he 100% wrong?
No.
No. Is he 100% right?
No.
No. All right. So guess who comes in after him? Our John Locke here. All right. John Locke. Okay. Now John Locke is slightly different. He, first off, he is the father of classical British empiricism. Woof. What is that? What is empiricism? What if I said, can you empirically prove something? Empiricism is the idea. Here, I'll give you a definition. Empiricism. This is the idea that all knowledge of humans is based upon experience. Experience is also referred to as empirical evidence. Okay. He believes that the mind is you are born with a blank slate. He puts this in Latin terms. Tabula, like tablet, rasa. Blank slate. You're born with a blank slate. And the more things that you experience, the more gets written on your slate. And then when more experiences happen to you and you have to make a decision, the code that's imprinted on that blank slate will dictate your behavior. Does this make sense? Okay. So the more we learn, the more our slate has on it. Well, by this rationale, though, is it possible to be original? Is it possible to be unique?
Yeah.
How? The only thing that you know are things that other people have told you, and that's it. You cannot have a unique idea.
Oh, yeah, you can.
It's impossible, through your experience. And surely you're not the only person to ever experience anything ever, only the first time ever in the history of humanity. And so the likelihood of a unique, original idea is very, very low. So people do not have innate. There's nothing, you're not born with anything. There's no innate ideas born within you.
Mm-hmm.
But you are a combination of your experiences. So people do not have these original ideas, just perceptions of the world. Okay? Now, how do you experience the world? This is what philosophy is, guys. You just keep asking weird questions. How do you experience the world? How do you interpret the things around you in your environment? Literally. How do you do it?
You look at them.
Okay, so you use your
brain.
you use your eyes. Okay, so you see things. You hear things.
You touch.
You can touch things. You taste and smell. So you can say that we perceive things through the senses. The senses are how we perceive things. Now, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with government. That just kind of goes with how he believes the empirical evidence works. Now, when it comes to the governmental type stuff, he writes, how Hobbes wrote the Leviathan. John Locke writes the second treatise on government. Okay? And in the second treatise on government, which he wrote in the year 1690, during the Enlightenment, he also comes up with a social contract. His social contract is very dissimilar to Thomas Hobbes. He says that people enter a social contract with government, and they are willing to give up their rights, but it's not so the government can harshly rule them. It's so that the government protects their stuff. All right? You have the right to own things, and it's the government's job to protect them. So he says that people enter a contract with the government and agree to be governed only if the government safeguards individual rights and property. So hey, yeah, government, I'll do my voting. I'll cast my votes for you. You better do what I say. So I'm in charge. It's the people who are in charge, because the people dictate to the government, not the government dictating to the people. What happens if the government fails to safeguard an individual's rights or property? What happens? Well, John Locke believes that the people have the right to overthrow that government. He calls it the right of revolution. If the government fails to protect your rights or your property, then the people have the right to overthrow that government and create a new one. You can tell John Locke was very popular with the King of England,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
talking about overthrowing the government and create a brand new one.
He must have been way up on top of that.
Yeah. So these are ideas. He also talks about the people have natural rights. He discusses natural rights. Thomas Jefferson calls the natural rights unalienable. John Locke describes natural rights as life, liberty, and what?
The pursuit of happiness.
Property.
Oh, I was close.
Thomas Jefferson says you have unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay? Okay, so just to get a little, philosophical, that's John Locke, Thomas Hobbes. If you guys are interested in things philosophy, I highly recommend you take one in college, because it gets out there. Rene Descartes, these guys they all bounce ideas off of each other, like about how do we know something exists. Well, how does John Locke say he knows something exists? Based on what?
Knowledge.
Of? How do I know? If you're John Locke and I'm holding this ink pen, does this ink pen exist? How do you know? You can see it. You hear it? Okay. I don't recommend you taste it and touch it, but it exists. Where's it at now? Does it exist? I've hidden the ink pen. Do you see it?
No.
Can you hear it?
No.
Does it exist? Do
No,
you?
because
All right.
you can't see it.
Now let me go this far. Do you exist?
Yes,
How do you know?
because I can touch myself.
You can, right?
I mean,
You
yeah,
hear-
I mean, you can.
Okay. Have you ever been deceived by your senses? Did you see my fingers just now?
No. But yeah.
Did you see my fingers make the snapping noise? Have you ever seen something that like in the corner of your eye, then you turn, there's nothing there?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard something
Yeah, and it's not there.
and it's not there? You ever felt a phantom touch on your leg?
Mm-hmm.
So your senses will lie to you.
Yes.
Are they to be trusted?
No.
How do you know you exist if you can't prove through your senses? How do you know? Do you exist? Rene Descartes answers this question. He says, I think, therefore I am. Because I'm able to think, I know that I can exist. Even though the realm in which I exist could be completely different than what is actually real, I know that I'm thinking, and so therefore I exist. This is out there stuff, guys. These are the types of thoughts people were having during the Enlightenment. So, just like John Locke, just like Thomas Hobbes, Enlightenment thinkers. Okay, so do you guys have questions for me? Tomorrow, everybody, whether you're home or in this class, make sure that you submit your Chapter 1 vocabulary words. Chapter 1 vocabulary. Submit it through Schoology. If you handwrite them, make sure you take pictures of them with the scan function of the Notes app. You open the Notes app, hit the little camera, scan all the documents that you have, and then submit it through Schoology. All right? Also, Notability is very easy to submit through Schoology as well. if you guys have questions at any point tomorrow, you can dial my extension directly and I'll answer, or you can email me, or you can contact me through Schoology and I'll get back to you very quickly because I'll be here all day from 6:45 to 2:30. And if that is all, next week we'll probably look at a test on Chapter 1. So I recommend that you look that over, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. And I'll see you two on Wednesday and everybody else on Monday.
Yeah, the